We are in the north side of Richmond in the Highland Park neighborhood. We are a grassroots organization, and our mission is threefold. The first is to help rebuild the lives of men and women looking for a second chance. The second part of our mission is to economically empower the Highland Park community through social enterprises, affordable housing, and property development. And then the third part of our mission is to connect across race, economic, and geographic divides of our city.
It's a new place. It's a place where you can learn, where you can grow, where you can flourish. And the ways in which I helped in that process is Jobs for Life. It's a Jobs for Life program. It's a faith-based program that's in 40 states and 15 countries. But we focus on the renewing of your mind so that you can go to the next level or the next place that you need to go in order to have the finances and the lifestyle that you choose to live. Another part that excites me about Boaz and Ruth is the housing. We have a housing program to set up so that it is already furnished. You have central air, central heat, washer, dryer, and it comes fully furnished. So that way you're moving into a place where you can transition to a bigger and a better place as you get your finances and jobs correct based off Jobs for Life training.
I think Boaz and Ruth is community. It's community in a neighborhood that people may or may not be aware of, may or may not know what's going on here, or may have heard things that aren't so great, but they don't know. So we are a community built to bring awareness to an amazing neighborhood that needs a little love sometimes. And our goals are to bring community together in a very impactful way to show hope and love and forgiveness and grace to a lot of people.
I believe that if we as individuals pull together, stick together, do things together, it'll strengthen everything around us.
So my favorite word over the last couple of years, especially since I came to work with Boaz and Ruth, is collaborate. Because one of the things that I really love about the organization is we do collaborate with a lot of other organizations, with a lot of churches, civic groups, nonprofits, with people in the community to create a better community.
Partnership to me means that we have more resources available that we might not normally have. It also means that there are different people coming that have different faces, different beliefs, different backgrounds, and as a result of that, I think it's important for the neighborhood to see that we interact with multiple races, multiple creeds, multiple heights, multiple incomes, and as a result of that, it allows us to grow and prosper because there are people in different areas of partnering that we might not have that same access or ability to have.
And then organizational partnerships are, of course, critical. As we mentioned, we try and partner with organizations that have similar values to us and see the neighborhood and the people that we are serving as a Boaz. And so we talk about our name and what does that mean. And so we really believe that, you know, Boaz was a wealthy landowner, had more than he needed, made decisions for the town, and Ruth, who had less than she needed and was homeless. And that dynamic of Boaz noticing Ruth, we often push our partners and our volunteers to understand that I myself am a Boaz with gifts and talents to share, but I'm also a Ruth with needs that I can't fulfill on my own. And so we push folks to see that the people we're serving and the neighborhood that we are in is rich with what we would say Boaz is, whereas other parts of the community would say our neighborhood and the people we're serving are Ruths. So that is the key component that we are looking for when we think through who's a good partner and who do we want to engage with.
Four hours ago, we brought this guy in to work. And he was so happy that he asked me for a cigarette. I gave him one. He was so happy that he was employed that he knew that things was gonna start looking higher in the sky, if you can say it that way.
I've been several times on volunteer projects where we had someone from one of the corporate groups that came in. 2 different times specifically that I am very aware of and I remember. One was a person from the Federal Reserve and another one was a person from UPS that in their younger lives lived in Highland Park. And Boaz and Ruth as an organization did something for them specifically or for their family that helped them be able to get out of the spot that they were in and to get the jobs that they have now. And they fully give credit to their success, and they're doing very well now at what the organization did to help them when they were younger.
We one time had a volunteer come in, and he was in early high school, and he was so young, and he came in during his spring break, and he was volunteering all day long, rarely took a break, and as you might know, adolescent youth aren't exactly forthcoming and chatty. And so it took a little bit for us to get to know him. And throughout the time, he started to share with us. We said, why is it that you're choosing, you could spend your spring break in any way, and you're choosing to come to Boaz and Ruth and volunteer with us throughout the week? And he shared with us that he typically lives with his father over in Churchill, and he attended Franklin Military Academy. However, during breaks, his mom lives here in Highland Park, and there were some challenges within the home, and so he was looking for a place to escape, right? Spend the evenings with his mom, but spend the majority of his day outside the home. And then he shared that of some of the challenges specifically, but he wasn't eating. And we said, why don't you ever eat when you're on lunch break? And he said, well, you know, that's one of the challenges. And so I left to go to a meeting, and Boaz and Ruth has a unique way of messages getting delivered to folks and communicating pretty quickly. And I come back from a meeting, and I see on one of our couches bags full of groceries, and I'm thinking, what is happening here? And one of our graduates said, well, we heard that there's a lack of food in the home. And so we all went home and we pulled things from our cabinets and our cupboards, and we are sending him home with food.
I mind my own business in my office, and all of a sudden a gentleman comes in, and he's about 6'4", 6'5", 280 pounds. And I come out of my office, and he says, I'm looking for a house. I'm looking for a room. And I shook his hand, and his hand came all the way up to here, and that got my attention. And from there, what ended up happening was he told me that he had one day, if he doesn't have housing today, then he would have to go back to the prison system. And when I shook his hand and the way he shook my hand, I knew he was a man of honor. And so I ended up saying, okay, you can stay with us. And from there, I ended up hiring him. And I just watched him grow. He was a man of honor in the sense that I never had to go behind him. He always did what he said he was going to do. So we ended up hiring him to stay with us. And he's employed with us to this day. When everything else is going on, he gets it done. But this was the thing that stood out to me. As we grew in relationships toward each other, we were not just co-workers, but we became friends. And friends, I mean that we could share things with each other that would challenge each other. The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron, and he sharpens me and I sharpen him. But we stood in agreement one day because I saw how he went from having to show up every week for probation, and then they turned it into once every month, and then they turned it into 3 months. And I said, well, what if we believe that you will be set free from having to be on probation? And he looked at me, and I could tell it was serious doubt in his eyes. And I said, all I'm asking you to do is to don't say anything contrary to what we're going to believe. So I wrote on the calendar, I wrote on a sticky note, and I put it in my desk so that I could see it and thank God for it every day. And what ended up happening was one day this year, earlier on in the year, he called me and he said, I can't talk. I'm too choked up to talk. And for this massive man to be choked up, I knew something serious had to be wrong. So what I did was, I tell you what, I live in Ashland. I said, I'll be in Richmond in 15 minutes. And when I got there, he shared with me that his probation officer had told him, said, you haven't come to see me in a while. What happens if you don't have to come at all? And he said, well, what do you mean? And she said, what if I release you from probation? So that's why I work at Boaz and Ruth. I love to see people's lives change. I love to see them challenge us as we challenge each other. But that man is free from probation to this very day.
At Boaz and Ruth, one of our focuses is affordable housing. And we have 8 houses that can house up to 38 people at any given time. The housing is focused on people that are living at least 50% or more below the HUD median household income. The average income for most of our residents is around $11,000 to $12,000 annually. So as you can imagine, that's a difficult sum to live on every month. All of our housing is barrier-free, which basically means that anyone that may have something on their credit history or their rental history or something in their background that would prohibit them from getting a house or an apartment or a place to live with traditional property managers or traditional rental agencies, that's not a problem here. This particular house behind me is actually just got a facelift. It got repainted just a few months ago. One of our annual fundraisers that we do is called the Amazing Praise. And it's a 48-hour online fundraiser that we do as a collaboration of, this year it'll be 22 other faith-based organizations. And we all come together, we create the event, and we do fundraising independently and together as well. So this is our community garden. The community garden here in Highland Park is part of the programs we do with Boaz and Ruth, and everything that grows in this garden is free to everybody in the community. And one of the reasons we do this is because Highland Park is considered a food desert, which is basically just means its proximity to a grocery store where someone could get fresh fruit and vegetables is difficult to get to for people, especially if they're on foot or public transportation. So the Saturday before last, we actually had a group of youth from First Pres come out to help get everything going. They worked really, really hard all day on that day. They pulled weeds, they planted vegetables, they planted fruit, they cleaned and raked and chopped and did everything. It was amazing to see the changes that happened in just a couple of hours with a great group of kids. So we really appreciated having them out for the day. I'm looking forward to having them out again soon to do some other things. Behind me on the left on First Ave, we have 3 more houses. The first 2 are duplexes, and then the one on the end is another larger house. And then on my left is the firehouse, which the firehouse, we used to have a restaurant in that we used for training and those kind of things, and unfortunately had to close it several years ago because of cost factors. But now it is rented out to a caterer who uses it for all of his prep and for events, and he has pop-up gourmet dinners on the weekends sometimes too. So now it's actually an income producer for the organization instead of working at a loss. And then next door to that is 6 Points Innovation Center, which is another one of our buildings, and it houses 5 youth-based organizations that work out of a co-working space. And they all work together, and we partner with them on lots of events and things in the community. And that building is also, hopefully in the near future, going to be renovated, and it's going to go up 2 additional levels, and it will be more affordable housing apartments in the community. And we will be able to offer housing to even more people in the neighborhood that they can afford, that's safe, that's clean, and that will be community space for everyone to live and work and love. Going in traditional housing, it can be impossible. So it gives this like miraculous little place for people to find a home and to be part of community and a family they didn't have before and get a fresh start, a new start, a first start, but to get their life going.